The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Good afternoon. Welcome to the latest webinar from MPP Global Solutions. Today we will be considering the rise of the tablet and the impact this technology has had on the publishing industry to date, and more importantly, the impact and the opportunities tablets will bring in the future. My name's Ben Catterall. I'm a Business Development Manager here at MPP, and I work closely with a number of newspapers and magazine publishers across Europe, and I will be spending the next 30 minutes discussing the tablet economy with you all. Just before we get started, there are a few housekeeping tips, I guess you'd call them, that I need to make you aware of. First thing, as we're on a web service, if you have any problems with streaming or jittery screens or anything like that, just close down anything else that may be sapping bandwidth. Skype, for instance, Dropbox, all these things can impact on GoToWebinar. If you have any questions at any point throughout the webinar, please raise your hand, and there's a little instruction on the screen showing you how to do that. And alternatively, you can send a text question using the chat functionality. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so feel free to either shout out during or save them till the end, completely up to you. And the final point here, we'll be doing 3 polls on today's webinar, but we'll save them for one chunk right towards the end. And when they come about, there'll be clear, easy to follow instructions on the screen. Okay, so today's webinar will cover 4 main topics. The first one is the mobile ecosystem, in which we'll look at the rise of the tablet and the expected growth in the years ahead. Secondly, we will look at the 4 areas that we believe represent the biggest opportunities and challenges for publishers. We consider these to be technology, content, the consumer, and the commercial models. And we will look at the different strategies being utilised by publishers today and discuss the benefits and drawbacks of each. Thirdly, we will look at an MPP success story, Mail Plus, and we will look at this project and the learnings made by everybody involved. And then finally, the webinar will conclude with a look at the transition from print through to tablet publishing, and we will pose the question, what next? And we will provide 5 keys to success that we believe all publishers should consider when formulating their digital plans. So first up, the mobile ecosystem. And this really will be setting the scene for tablets, what they are, where they've come from. And the first thing to do is to look at a timeline. So hopefully this can be seen by everybody now. So from the first computer back in the 30s, you can see on the bottom there, through to the first tablet in 2002, there have been many significant technological advances, and I guess not least the internet. The trend towards convergence has been noticeable as PCs get smaller and more portable, and mobile devices get greater processing and memory capabilities. The tablet really is a combination of the convenience of mobile and the power of a PC. So when tablets were first launched, they were seen by many, or by some, as a fad or a gimmick. Even as recently as Monday, you may have seen that the CEO of BlackBerry commented that the popularity of tablets is beginning to wane, and his company will be thinking very hard about launching any future tablet devices. On the whole, though, perceptions have changed since then, with tablet sales far outstripping laptop and PC sales, and more traffic being generated on tablets than on smartphones. And smartphones have been around for 10 years longer, so that speaks volumes. I've got some statistics that will help to illustrate this point and to show the continuing trend for growth with tablets. Not shown on the screen, a stat that I found this morning actually shows that the volume of tablets expected to be shipped in 2016 will reach 442 million. So if this is the case, that will allow for 7 tablets for each member of the UK public, which is obviously huge. And this would be an increase of 2,600% since 2010, when only 17 million units were shipped. Compare that with the slide we just looked at with the predictions, where somebody thinks that 10 million would be out of the question. It's clearly the case that tablets are hugely successful. The increase in ownership is directly linked to the traffic information that I've got on screen at the moment, with a recent Adobe survey showing traffic to tablets overtaking traffic to smartphones for the very first time, late 2012. What this means is that publishing as a traditional industry has experienced huge change from the introduction of tablet and mobile devices, with roughly half of all tablet owners consuming news content on their device, and 2/3 of these users having a news app installed. We also find that users would rather consume content on their tablet rather than any other, probably more traditional device such as print or TV, other formats, I guess you'd call them. And there's a huge willingness from the consumer to read content on loads and loads of different devices, and they're quick to adopt these new devices. And this webinar intends really to explain the various options and possibilities open to publishing companies. It is important to note, though, that the changes in technology we experienced over the last 10 years have had a massive impact on the consumer, not just from a publishing perspective. We now have much more information at our fingertips from the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we fall asleep at night. And if we ran a poll of all the people on the webinar at the moment, and there are a few of you, and asked if you conducted the tasks displayed on the screen on your mobile device, I'm sure the overwhelming majority would answer yes. But what would have happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago, even if we asked the same question? Social networking and mobile TV certainly weren't an option back then. With this in mind, it's important not just to consider tablet as a standalone platform, but as one component of a much larger strategy. People and consumers are influenced by multiple channels all day long. These channels should be utilised to push traffic and revenue towards your digital editions. This is especially important when fostering brand loyalty, as with all these different devices and different formats, there are many, many alternative options available to your users today. And this isn't just down to products, it's also down to platform and technology. And it's true to say that it's never been easier for a customer to move away from your services. So looking after those customers and doing things that they want you to do is vitally important. Complementary technologies and mediums can be leveraged to increase this retention on tablet devices and to improve that all-important bottom line, because I guess at the end of the day that's why everybody's on this call, to figure out how they can make tablet profitable. This continual process of building awareness and familiarity with your brand is key to maintaining repeat customers. So how do you do that? The challenges and the opportunities that we face with tablet publishing. As I said before, we've split this into 4 key areas: technology, content, the consumers, and the commercial models available to be used. So if we start with technology, and when it comes to publishing on a tablet device, the big question that everybody faces is, do I build a native application or do I go web-based and build an HTML5 app? Native apps to start with. Native apps, as you probably are aware, are built specifically for the device or the operating system in question. It's still the most popular method of tablet publishing, with most major outlets providing this type of product. And what native applications allow is you to take they allow you to take full advantage of the built-in functionality that the device offers. So a good example would be augmented reality, which is, as you probably aware, tip for big things this year. Native apps are perfectly placed to take advantage of this, as they are able to utilize both the onboard camera and the GPS functionality that the device contains, whereas a web app potentially would find it a lot trickier and there would be a lot more permissions to be granted before that's possible. Early native applications, though, had to be built in such a way that they were difficult to replicate for other platforms, and this was clearly an expensive and timely process. However, in recent years, the advent of more sophisticated digital publishing tools like Adobe DPS have made this less of an issue, and it doesn't require individual teams for each device. You can centralize the team into one single design and development resource unit. Falling out of native apps is the newsstand, and the newsstand was launched in 2011, and I suppose Apple saw the huge impact that the tablet device would have on the publishing industry, so they decided to build the newsstand, which would only allow magazine and newspaper applications to be displayed, and it is really just an extension of the traditional app store. The thing with newsstand is that it's pre-installed on any iOS device, and this provides really easy access for the customer and the audience to get to the publisher's content. And what we find is that 21% of tablet users consume news content via an application, but they also keep this application installed for future use. So once somebody's downloaded the app from the newsstand, they generally keep it. So that's that loyalty, that's that customer retention we touched on earlier. With newsstand and native applications, though, there is a margin to be paid out to the platform provider. So with Apple, it's 30% at the moment. This clearly is a disincentive to set up on iOS and on newsstands, but at the same time, is that a price worth paying for that ease of access to the audience? I'm not sure. I guess that's still a question that's out there. It is, however, possible to register new users on a standard website separate from iOS. and for the subscription purchase here to be redeemed within the native app, so for the entitlement to be shared from the website within and across to the app as well. Another thing with native apps is data, and who owns that data, who owns that user data. There are limitations when it comes to Apple and the newsstand, with the user being given the option just to simply opt out of sharing their personal information with anybody else. This impacts the company's ability to target marketing appropriately and to maintain the awareness that we looked at earlier and to keep people familiar with your branding. These factors have led to some of the larger newspaper groups moving away from native apps altogether to web-based HTML5 apps. And I think the FT is probably the most famous example of this. Web-based apps provide the publisher with complete control over the content that they deliver, the sales process, and also the user data that they can store via the application. The app can be built to responsively adapt to the device on which it's being displayed, and HTML5 apps are not limited to specific devices as early native apps were. With web apps, the publisher is free to do with the application really whatever they want. They're not tied into the rules and regulations of the larger app store. So this allows for the embedding of payment and e-commerce technology, links out to other websites that are separate from Apple, all sorts of different possibilities. Importantly as well, though, the publisher has complete ownership of all user data and what data to collect, so the registration process is completely controlled within the app by the publisher. And how they then use this data in the future is up to them. Do they use it for marketing campaigns? I guess they probably would do. But they are able to use the data to tailor those marketing campaigns to that specific client base. They will also have the possibility to share that data with other companies, which may be important for advertising and ad exchanges. This is clearly an advantage over the native app we looked at earlier. Because web apps are not offered via the App Store or newsstand, it could be argued that the visibility of web apps is lower than with native counterparts. A web app is downloaded directly from the browser and relies upon the user navigating directly to the website rather than just stumbling across the app in an app store, as is the case with the newsstand. There's also the question of content updates. With native applications, it's possible to push content out to the application at scheduled intervals or as and when the updates are made. This reliance on manual input with web apps could be seen as a negative factor and certainly increases the chances of somebody forgetting about the app because they've not updated it or not accessed the app in a while. However, in arguments that a recent survey by HubSpot found that 40% of all tablet users get their news content via the web browser. So you may have seen this on your phone in your own experience, that when you visit a website you may be prompted to download the app as you're browsing. This adds further weight to the argument for developing a web app. So that's the technologies available. Paired with technology is the content strategy. And similarly to print editions, there are various different ways digital and tablet content can be packaged. We'll look at the most popular offerings available at the moment and give you some, again, pros and cons on each. The first is a print replica. Very simple, perhaps the simplest offering that there is. The way this is done, there are various digitization products available that can quickly copy the print edition and reformat this for all major tablet platforms. Some people would argue that simply replicating the print edition does not add a great deal of value to the product, with the counter-argument being that the customer does not have to visit the local shop to pick up the same content as they would with print, so the convenience is the selling point. There are also questions around the capabilities of the tablet device and the fact that they're not being fully utilized, and if this potentially devalues the product if it's a simple replica. What we're seeing is that many publishers offer PDF replicas as an initial entry into digital publishing, really as a simple starting point from which to evolve a much more sophisticated digital portfolio, with the next step generally being to offer the print replica along with some extra content. This is the obvious next step, and the content that's offered alongside the print replica generally is stuff that cannot be offered via the print medium. This could be live updates, so that the tablet edition is immediately updated when new stories come out. That video content is provided to accompany current affairs stories, interactive gaming, crosswords, commenting section, message boards, social networking integrations. All of these options are possible, and creating these new experiences even can be only achieved on a tablet device, and this makes the content unique and provides clear marketing opportunities for your marketing divisions. It does, however, require greater creative and development resource to be able to maintain this constant flow, this changing interactive content on a day-by-day basis, even an hour-by-hour basis if you're reacting to the latest news articles. The furthest move away from print editions, I guess really a complete departure from print editions, is the option to create a tablet-specific version. This could be seen as an interesting model for publishers who are looking to attract customers in separate user groups to their traditional readership. As with the interactive content I've just been speaking about, a publisher opting for this model must dedicate resource purely to this product, and this could be seen as an expensive option. One famous example of a tablet-only edition was News Corporation's The Daily, launched in the States in 2011. The Daily was discontinued just over 12 months later in December 2012, and News Corp's CEO at the time, Rupert Murdoch, commented that the model was not sustainable. It was not possible to reap enough benefit from selling a tablet-only edition as well as replicas of the print edition. He just said it was completely unsustainable. However, is this still the case today and in the future? And I think it's less likely with niche content where readership is generally a lot more loyal. It may be tricky with general news content that can be found elsewhere for free or at a discounted rate. If you're the only place where that content can be purchased and you can get loyal customers on board, then I think there is an opportunity there. So they're generally the content strategies or the different options available. You can then bundle those strategies, and many publishers choose to bundle their existing products, be this print or other digital formats, with their new tablet offerings. This grouping of products aims to provide a package for all users, regardless of their format preferences. The usual model we see is to offer a relative saving as more and more devices and formats are added to the bundle. Bundling across multiple titles and multiple business areas is another possibility, with many European companies looking to launch these shared group services, these shared group wallets. So if you sign up on one title, you can then use that same account on another title, even though it may be of a completely different strand. Another new opportunity that exists relating to bundling is the ability now for publishers to unbundle their content. So when they deliver to digital devices, they don't need to just offer the same content to every single person. With print, you paid a fixed price to receive the full newspaper or magazine. With digital, it's much, much easier to split out the individual areas of the publication and to sell these as individual products. It's the case that some customers would be unwilling to pay a monthly subscription of, let's say, £30 for a newspaper per month, but they may be willing to pay for just the sports content or just the travel content for £10 per month. This new revenue stream and this new target audience could not be exploited prior to the introduction of digital formats. So we now know a bit about technology, we know a bit about the different content strategies available. Importantly, more important than both those put together really is knowing the customer and knowing what the customer wants to buy. And I guess the old adage of the customer always being right rings true even with this newest of technologies. There's no point exploring technology or content type unless you're fully aware of your target audience and the behaviors they exhibit. On first thought, many people predict that most tablet users are young males who are interested in the latest gadgets, and this is certainly true of many other emerging technologies such as connected TVs and games consoles. But in fact, tablet devices buck this trend. I was speaking with a colleague of mine recently, and he explained that on a recent family holiday, he looked out of his balcony to see 3 generations of his family, all using tablet devices, but all for a different purpose. The young children and the teenagers are using the tablet to play games and to socialise virtually with their friends back home. The adults were using the tablet to explore the local culture, to find day trips, to check their emails while they're out of the office, and to read the news. And the eldest generation were using the tablet to read ebooks and to check on local news from back home. This example perfectly illustrates the impact that tablet devices have had on all demographics in society. When we look at territories in the US versus Europe, a recent report by the Pew Center in the US stated that most tablet users are likely to be educated to at least college level and in full-time employment, with the age range between 30 and 49. This is pretty similar in Europe, but the age is slightly lower, but the general characteristics are very, very similar. Although this is likely to change in the years ahead as tablet technology changes with them. I guess the key factor here is pricing of tablets. Tablets are still relatively expensive, and certainly the more powerful the device, the more high profile the device, the higher the price tag attached to it. As manufacturer competition increases and prices is driven down, it's fair to say that penetration will increase amongst users as the technology becomes more and more affordable. This reduction in price may also create an opportunity for publishers, with the user's savings from the hardware now available to be spent on content rather than investing in the product in the first place. Knowledge of target user groups and demographics is an important factor to be considered when looking at the sales process displayed in the earlier slide with the funnel. Different user groups will be influenced by different outlets and different formats. For example, a young person may look to social networks to understand the trends of their peers, or they may be influenced by celebrities. An older user may be more interested in product reviews and reputations. When marketing the tablet publication, these outside influences should be taken into consideration and understood, and changes to these trends should be expected as new products, new formats, new influences hit the market. Tablet publications and their publishers and their marketing teams, more importantly, must be able to adapt accordingly to these changes. Okay, so I have a question from somebody at the moment. I'll just chip in to answer this. So it's from somebody called Manisha, and the question is, what is your view on content publishing from low-cost tablets? Okay, so this is an interesting question because I guess, generally speaking, at the moment, most publishing is aimed at the higher end of the scale. This could be iPads or the high-end Samsung Galaxy Android devices. When we're looking at lower-cost tablets, I think the important thing here is the operating system. There are two clear leaders. We have iOS and we have Android, and most of the low-cost tablets are on Android. But what's important is that whichever version of Android people are using, is that the publication, the content is compatible. There's no point just accommodating the latest version of Android, because that could restrict the people on the lower price tablets from even seeing the content if they're running off lower versions of the operating system. So I think that would be an important thing to consider. And as I've been mentioning, as the price of the tablets come down, it's likely that the technological capabilities will decrease as well. And publishers need to be aware of that and just maybe have some kind of contingency in place to make sure they can look after those new clients. So thanks for that question, Manisha. Hopefully that answers, and if not, or if there are any additions, feel free to send me an email afterwards and we can pick up that conversation. So moving on, we can move to look at the commercial models available. So now we know about the audience, we know the content strategy available, the formats available from a technical perspective. It's time to look at the different commercial models that can be implemented to create a revenue stream. The first, and the slides already beat me to it, is revenue share. This is the model that Apple use with Newsstand, where you sell a product at, let's say, £1 for easy number's sake, 30% or 30p goes off to the platform provider, with the remaining revenue coming to the app developer or the publisher. A simple model, hugely successful with Apple and Newsstand, although some people would argue that is the availability of that audience worth the 30% cut, and does the revenue share penalise companies who sell high volumes and high price points? The next option is a freemium model, and this has been very popular with web publications and paywalls, really. And freemium for publishers, I guess, is most closely linked to metered paywalls, where you may get 5 or 10 or 20 articles for free over a given period, and when you hit that threshold, that's when you start paying. We've not really seen this so far with tablets, although I expect it's just around the corner. But encouraging the user in with a free period or with a free number of articles per month is a good way to get people to the app or to the site in the first place. If you can then keep them locked in with engaging and interesting content, you should then be able to upgrade their account and actually start charging them for that content, for that access. I guess quite similar to freemium, or certainly the free part of freemium, it's the ad-funded model. And the Mail Online, the illustration there, is the most read online newspaper anywhere in the world, and it's purely ad funded, which means for the end user it's completely free of charge. That's great for users because there's no barrier to entry. You know that your content will be seen because people don't have to pay to get to it. There are some considerations though with ad funding, and people will know that the ad market is in decline because people are becoming blind to advertising, and there are new, more subtle ways rather than banner ads like the Scottish friendly one we can see here. Also with ad funding, there are no guarantees. There's nothing to stop those ad companies pulling all the adverts tomorrow. And where would that leave the publisher? Do they have a backup? Do they have an alternative? If all the ads dried up, how are they going to reap any revenue from the product? Alongside ad funded, we see most of the people offering a subscription model. A subscription model can be utilized really quite simply. It can be daily, weekly, monthly, and very, very simple to utilize. And I'm sure everybody is aware of subscriptions from their days in print. And the final commercial model we'll quickly look at is micropayments. Micropayments allow customers to purchase individual articles at very low price points, so maybe 50p, £1. And by paying for individual articles rather than the full newspaper, they may be more susceptible or more open to returning to the website in the future. So what we'll do now is we have a few poll questions which I want to run by everybody. The first question, as you can probably see on the screen, is what percentage of current print revenue would digital edition sales equate to in 12 months' time? The options are all there, and if you want to fill those in, that would be really good. Okay, so you should see those options now. Okay, that's fine. Same question again, but we'll expand the timeline to 5 years. So if you have your thoughts on where tablets and digital will be in 5 years' time, that would be helpful. Okay, and then the final poll today, the age-old question, when do you expect print revenues to dry up altogether? Will that be never, 5 years, 10 years? Please let us know. Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so moving on. So I know we're approaching the end of our allocated time. We have a quick case study on an MPP client, which is Mail Plus. Mail Plus is the Daily Mail's first venture into tablet publishing, and it offers the user the ability to buy the print replica as well as some exclusive interactive content. And MPP provide the full registration and payment process for Mail Plus. A hugely interesting case study, and I'm sure I can direct a number of you to the website to read a fuller illustration of this. But the main learnings here were it's very important not to detract away from your core business, in the Mail's case their Mail online website, but at the same time to create interesting and useful data and be able to sell the tablet edition as a separate product altogether without interfering with that core business. So we'll wrap up the webinar today with just some thoughts for the future. And there are really 4 things that we think that will impact the market for tablets. The first couple are the evolving trends in relation to technology. I think it's safe to say that the iPad has set the benchmark in terms of size and design. We're now seeing the launches of mini tablets and phablets, phone-tablet hybrids. We've already seen that traffic to tablet devices is huge and is greater than the smartphones. How long before the PC's traffic is under threat? We've also discussed that tablets are becoming less of a premium product, so I don't think we need to stop on that anymore. And then finally, the ways in which you sell content on a tablet are much, much different to the ways in which you sell content on a print edition. With tablets, you have a lot more information about the user, so you can really tailor the package to suit them as an individual rather than a mass market. So we've summarised that as saying the consumer drives the content rather than the publisher driving the content. And I hope all the people on the webinar today would agree with that viewpoint. Just to summarise, a few key success that we believe are massively important when considering your tablets and your digital strategy. The first is integration into your existing ecosystem. You probably all have systems that have been set up for many, many years, very, very complicated. What you don't want to do is completely change all that to accommodate tablet. You want the tablet service, the tablet system to fit in as seamlessly and easily as possible. So that's an important consideration to be made when you're looking at vendors for this type of service. The second one is bundling and packaging. How do you add that tablet addition to your existing portfolio of products? There are many, many ways to do it, but make sure that the service, the system that you select is able to facilitate the bundles that you require. The third point is CRM, and traditionally publishers will not have had a relationship with the end user, so they are likely to now need CRM systems for the very first time. Ensuring that CRM system is capable to manage customers across multiple platforms, multiple devices, multiple formats is massively important, and that can manage all of the information that's required from the user. Once you have that CRM, you can then create a single view of that user in the CRM across all the different devices, which allows for huge marketing opportunities, reporting efficiencies, customer service efficiencies. It really is a very, very important aspect of multi-device publishing. And from a customer perspective, what that allows is the creation of a single payment account. So one payment account on any of your devices that can be used time and time again on all of the other devices without having to sign up separately or to re-enter credit card details, because there's nothing worse from a user perspective than typing in details time and time again to get to the same content over and over again. You want one single access point, one set of login credentials that can be used by that user over and over again. And what that creates is the ability to upsell, cross-sell, and allow for impulse purchasing very, very quickly via one-click functionality. And the user, as I say, simply only having to remember this one set of login details. So they're the key takeaways from today's webinar, and we will be publishing a white paper which will go into those in greater detail and won't be restricted by today's time constraints. So just to finish up, I've already answered one question, but if anybody else has a question, feel free to ask that now. Okay, I can't see anybody coming through, so we'll move on. And as you can see on the screen at the moment, we've just got our contact details. So if you do want to get in touch with me, I can send everybody on the webinar an email just to give you my contact details, my personal details, and we can continue the conversation offline. So I'd just like to finish by thanking everybody today. I hope it was a worthwhile exercise, and I hope to speak to you in the future. Thanks very much.